we went through the first chapter. Basically, I titled that Refocusing Our Priorities. Refocusing Our Priorities. And we're moving on from there. Let's look at Haggai chapter 2, verses 1 through 9 as we read together. Do we need children's church? I think all of them would be about.
No, I think we're all good.
We're all good, okay. Y'all don't have to remind me that, flag me down, I get wound up here. Chapter 2, beginning in verse 1. On the 21st of the 7th month, the word of the Lord came by Haggai the prophet, saying, Speak now to Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and to Joshua, the son of Jehozadak, the high priest, and to the remnant of the people, saying, Who is left among you who saw this temple in its former glory? And how do you see it now? Does it not seem to you like nothing in comparison? But now take courage, Zerubbabel, declares the Lord. Take courage also, Joshua, son of Jehozadak, the high priest. And all you people of the land, take courage, declares the Lord. And work, for I am with you, declares the Lord of hosts. As for the promise which I made you when you came out of Egypt, my spirit is abiding in your midst. Do not fear. For thus says the Lord of hosts, once more in a little while, I am going to shake the heavens and the earth and the sea also and the dry land. I will shake all the nations, and it will come with the wealth of all nations, and I will fill this house with glory, says the Lord of hosts. The silver is mine, and the gold is mine, declares the Lord of hosts. The latter glory of this house will be greater than the former, says the Lord of hosts. In this place I will give peace, declares the Lord of hosts. Now we're going to talk about the historical significance of what he was trying to say, but we're going to have today's application. If I was going to have any title to this sermon, it would be this: Overcoming the Mountain of Disappointment. Overcoming the Mountain of Disappointment. Intro. On September the 5th, 1886, Charles Spurgeon, and if you ever want to read some dynamic stuff, some commentaries on God's Word, Charles Spurgeon is it. He began his sermon on this particular text when he preaches back then, and quote, Satan is always doing his utmost to stay the work of God. He hindered these Jews from building the temple, and today he endeavors to hinder the people of God from spreading the gospel. A spiritual temple is to be built for the Most High, and by any means, if evil one can delay his uprising, he will stick at nothing. If he can take us off from working with faith and courage for the glory of God, he will be sure to do it. He is very cunning and knows how to change his argument and yet keep to his design. Little cares he how he works, so long as he can hurt the cause of God. Spurgeon was good at putting a lot of punch in just a few words. Satan's only design is to hurt the cause of God. Think about that. If he can tear apart a church, if he can tear apart a Christian's life, he's going to win. To do his infernal work, he has many weapons in his arsenal, his little grab bag, so to speak. And I'm kind of thinking like a cop's gun belt. You got the gun, you got this base, you got all these kind of weapons that you can use. Devil's got a lot of them. Sometimes he uses greed. Sometimes he uses anger or malice or false accusation. Sometimes he uses lust, evil desires, or temptation to revenge. But of all his weapons, none is sharper than the one called discouragement. If only he can get the saints of God to despair over their efforts, then his battle is already won. If Satan can get us down and get us discouraged and disappointed, he is won. Many, many people that call themselves Christians and believers, and I'm not saying they're not, they are unchurched or bouncing around from church to church because of discouragement and disappointment. Satan has won the battle in their heart. It was advertised, it's an illustration, so I'm excited here. It was advertised that the devil was going to put his tools up for sale. All his tools he had on his tool shelf. On the day of the sale, tools were placed for public inspection, being marked with his sale price. There were treacherous lots of implements: hatred, envy, jealousy, doubt, lying, pride, and so on. Laid apart from the rest of the pile was a harmless-looking tool, well-worn, and priced very high. How do we read the garage sale and come up with the tools? This is what's happening. Got it on display. One of the purchasers asked us, "What's the name of this tool?" The devil said, "Oh, that's called discouragement." "Why have you got it priced so high?" Satan says, "Because it's more useful to me than the others. I can pry open and get inside a person's heart with that one, when I cannot get near him with other tools. Now, once I get inside, I can make it do what I choose. It's a badly worn tool because I use it on almost every one, since few people know it belongs to me." When we think we can say, "Well, I can recognize jealousy, I can recognize envy," but do we recognize discouragement and disappointment? Satan says, "That's the one I'm going to use." The devil's price for discouragement is high. He never sold it, but yet, you know why? It's still his major tool today to defeat God's church. Disappointment is the theme, I guess, of this first part of chapter 2. The people in Israel, if you remember the last time they come back, they started working on the temple, they stopped, they waited how many years? 16, 18 years. They got their priorities out of whack. And now Haggai comes along and says, "Look," said, "we got to get back together and get on the ball." They had responded at one time. They'd come back, they were called back to Jerusalem, they called back to build the temple back, and they had started. And what has happened, they got discouraged. They didn't like what they saw. Did we ever get discouraged? What's going on in the church life? What's going on in our spiritual life? You don't want to be defeated, become discouraged and disappointed. Maybe you're teaching a class, or maybe you're doing this or that or the other. You become discouraged because there's only 1 or 2 people showing up. You stand before a congregation, teach a sermon, and only 5 or 10 people show up. Let me tell you something. God gives you and the body what it needs at that time.
Amen.
And Haggai 10 said, God has given you what you need at this time. Now, if you look at this, and I don't know if we're going to be able to cover both of them, we're going to look at the causes of disappointment, and then we're going to see the cure of disappointment. So, y'all can be here 2 hours this morning, or an hour this morning, an hour next Sunday. How's that? Okay? We'll try to get through this, but I think it's very important. As I looked at this, I had to start thinking about my attitude of heart and what I see, not only in this body of Christ, but other bodies, as I was talking about, sharing with Carol earlier about different things. There was disappointment. There was this mountain they could not climb. It's called disappointment. The reasons for the disappointment were many, and most of them resolve around a bad memory. Memory can be a blessing or it can be a curse. How many have good memories? How many have got bad memories? But the Jews were guilty of focusing on the negative and forgetting about the positive. Why is news so negative? Ever think about that? People dwell on the negative and not on the positive. Satan's going to get you down. He's going to look at negative. How many come to whispering ears and psst? You're not good enough. Remember what you did 10 years ago? Psst. You're not good enough. Remember what you did 15 years ago? That's how Satan gets in. So the first thing we have is what we remember, or our memory. Look at verse 3a. Or verse 3 altogether. Who is left among you who saw the temple in its former glory? And how do you see it now? Does it not seem to you like nothing in comparison? And what was happening was they had those that come back that remembers what? Solomon's temple when it was destroyed. God has called them to build another temple, start working the temple. It's not the same as what? Solomon's temple. There was only going to be one Solomon's temple. But they were based on their memories. The temple was destroyed again, even this one that was built in 586 BC. The temple was rebuilt, the one we're talking about here, in about 520, 521 BC. And we're going to get into exactly what Haggai meant about the temple. They remember Solomon's temple. They remembered its glory, its gold-colored walls. It is said historically that the Solomon's temple contained, in today's dollars, over $20 million worth of gold in splendor. The splendor of the old temple, its size, its breathtaking beauty. They recalled the glory days when the Shekinah glory of God filled the temple, and the house of God reverberated with his praises. They're thinking back there. These same people that were back there in the glory days are now here after being in exile, coming back and having to rebuild from what? Zero. And all they could think about was how wonderful it was then and how sad it looked now. You can see this actually take place in Ezra chapter 3, verses 9 through 13, when people were writing, the Levites. They come back, the few that did. The people, the ones that remember. Basically, the leaders of the church are the ones that started writing. And saying, look, remember here? Look at what we got here. It don't look the same. Now, I'm the first to admit that here in the Royal Bible Church in 2015 is not the same as a church was in 1996 when I became part of this body. It is different. It has changed. Life changes. Many things have changed over approximately 19, 20 years. Some of you have been around longer than I have and been through a lot. And we see many changes, ups and downs. And we want to go back and try, oh, back then we had this. Back then we did this. And now when we come here, we want to try to see back then when God is saying, I've got something else for you to do going forward, not looking back. It's so easy, if you were here back then and now here, to get discouraged and disappointed and all these things that Satan uses to destroy what's going on now. Through disappointment and discouragement, Satan halted the building of the temple at that time. Haggai was prophesying. They started building and they just completely stopped because they said, what? Well, this don't look like back then. Remember back then? Remember back then? Back then it's not going to happen again. Because God is about today and tomorrow. God is about us looking towards the future. The memory they had back then was a curse. And sometimes we need to remember, born again believers, the memories we have back then can be a curse. And can be defeat and can be a discouragement. The second thing, not only memories, the things we forget. Look at verse 4 through 5. But now take courage, Zerubbabel, declares the Lord. Take courage also, Joshua, the high priest. And all you people of the land, take courage, declares the Lord. And what Haggai is saying, the Lord is telling him, he said, look, you may be down, you may be discouraged, you may be disappointed, but he says, I'm going to tell you what, look up and take courage and stand strong. As for the promise which I made you when you came out of Egypt, remember that? What I promised you when you came out of Egypt? He said, I want you to remember those things. When you were roaming in the desert for 40 years, I was there. When you were fighting your battles in the promised land, what? I was there. And what he's saying right now, looking on, says, is for the promise which I made you when you came out of Egypt, my spirit is abiding in your midst. Do not fear. I am still here. I have not left. Be encouraged. God tells us things. We forget what God has done for us. We forget the good memories. We won't concentrate on the negative. God is telling us that I'm still here. You're the one that has walked away. My spirit still remains among you. I'm still here. I've always been here. You need to look up. He says, Abraham is gone, Moses is gone, David is gone, Solomon's gone, the first temple is gone, but I, the Lord, am still here. Satan putting in the heart of these past memories of what you want it to be, when you need to concentrate on what God is doing now. And what he's trying to build now. Who he's trying to work with now. See, back then they looked at the temple built by Solomon. They remembered the grandeur and majesty. They looked at the temple they were building and were discouraged. When you become discouraged, you quit working. What's the use? What's the point? I'm going to be disappointed. And what God's saying is, you can be disappointed in your work, but don't be disappointed in my work and what I'm doing. As far as he's concerned, this house that they were building, he, capital H, God, the house they were building was just as good as the house they were building. Because why? Not because of the building, not because of who was there, but because God was there. And that's what God was trying to say. He was trying to say it's not about what they used to have. It was and always has been, but about God who dwelled in the temple. They forgot it was not about the building. They had to remember it was about who dwelled in the temple, and that's God. That's just like in our lives. We often want to look around and we forget it's about the Holy Spirit that dwells here that's in charge, not Satan, not our past memories. And basically saying, forget about the past. Forget about the things you don't have any longer. Those things are gone forever. They're gone. God is here, still here. He's still remembering them. And he says, what? Therefore, keep working. Keep working. Keep working. I can remember that years ago before I come here, I was teaching a singles class at Second Baptist Church Springfield. And I started out with one person, and maybe two, depending on what's on, and then three. And I prepared, and I studied, and then I still have all the disciplines from back then. Might come in handy one of these days out. And you know, it was easy to get discouraged. Why am I here in this class? I was consistent. I was dedicated. I continued to teach. Now, this is the power of God. I had nothing to do with it. Because I'm not the best orator there is. Within a year and a half, it went from 1 or 2 people to 150 in the assessment class. And we kept breaking it down, you know, trying to find other rooms. And the only reason it was that large at one time was we went on the rooms. We didn't have any rooms. But God kept saying, Rick, keep teaching. Don't worry about how many's there. You just keep teaching. You just keep teaching. That's what what Haggai is saying, God's telling us to just keep teaching. Don't look at how things used to be. Look at how things are. And I'm here. The third thing, the comparisons we make. God asked the people this question, how do you see it now? Is it not in your eyes in comparison of it as nothing? In other words, you're looking back and then you have nothing here. The old people wept when they saw the new temple, and they remembered the old one. In their eyes, the new temple was less than nothing. It seemed that it was not worth their time or their energy. They hated it and they wanted nothing to do with it. Why are people not in church? They're discouraged, they're disappointed, they're looking for backing. If we're not careful, we can get caught up in this comparison. Not only with what happened in this fight back then, but looking at other church fights and look what's over there, look, oh, well, look what they're doing, we're not doing that. Look across town, we need to try to do that over there, look what they're doing, we're not doing that. You get what I'm saying? We're looking out there and comparing what's going on here to what's going on over there. And not keeping the focus where and what God has for us here. And what work He has for us here. In the 1930s, one of the most famous racehorses in America was a horse named Seabiscuit. Do I remember that name? Seabiscuit?
Seabiscuit the third.
Seabiscuit was an incredible fast horse. On one excuse me. Itch.
Seabiscuit had a very unique function.
Okay. On the right kind of track, he was almost uncatchable. When he was training, his trainers had to be careful to properly choose the other horses he trained with. Some of the horses lost to Seabiscuit so often that they refused to run. Seabiscuit would toy with other horses, allowing them to come neck to neck with him, and he would unleash his speed and leave them in the dust. His training partners knew they were going to lose, and they refused to let Seabiscuit beat them again. Losing to such a fast horse so often caused these horses to become discouraged and quit. I know horses do that. The same thing can happen to us. Comparisons are foolish, and they can be harmful when we are constantly disappointed with the outcome of our comparisons. Another tool, let's say. Satan says, boy, you must not be a good body because you're not like you're not like you were 15 years ago. You get what I'm saying? You start looking around and trying to compare. It's kind of foolish, the comparison game. Remember in John chapter 1, the time that Jesus asked Peter, said, do you love me? 3 times. Peter said, no, Lord, you know that I love you. Remember that same thing. He tells Peter about how he's going to die. Then Peter looks at John and says, what about him? Remember that conversation? We find John chapter 21. What was the Lord's response? John Peter said, what happens to John is none of your business. What happens in other churches and other bodies is none of our business. What happens here is what God wants us to be concerned about.
Amen.
And we get wrapped up in comparison game. We get wrapped up in wanting to look around. When we live in the past and celebrate the present, the inevitable result will be what? Disappointment and discouragement. Disappointment and discouragement. How many of us still hanging on to the past? How many of us thinking what it was, it should be, all these other kind of things, all that's in the past. When God works, He's not concerned about what you did yesterday, last year, or 10 years ago. He's concerned about what His body is doing today, tomorrow, into the future. When he says you need to work, you need to work. How many of us, when we all have jobs, I'm sure most had or have jobs, and we work for these jobs, and there's been days we just wish we never showed up for work. Okay, everybody can raise your hand. Today's one of them, Deb, so what you said?
I didn't get here till after Sunday school started, I apologize.
No, big deal. We get discouraged, but we keep working, and we keep working, we keep working. And Satan defeats us in that area. We become discouraged and disappointed. Then it starts leading to us not doing our work. Because the Bible says we should work, and our job is what? Working in the Lord. We should work here not to satisfy the people sitting in the pews, not to satisfy that church over there, or try to be like we were 10 years ago. Work to satisfy Christ in our lives, in our work, in our teaching. Even if we feel a little down and disappointed. Okay? We need to be here looking what God has for us today, not yesterday. We need to be here and basically slap Satan in the face, say, hush your mouth. And about yesterday. That's poor English, but you know, okay? I'm going to cut it off there because the cure is going to take another hour, Bobby. Cut it down, Bobby. Hey, Bobby said it's all right. And Bobby gave permission to preach another hour, guys. Yes, I understand. We're going to look about the cure for disappointment. I want you to understand, and it's so amazing how things happen when I do this. And I'm not going to share a lot, Carol, I'm talking about the trainings, about being discouraged in church and this and that. I'm not going to keep it. Kind of just in my head says, you know, something rings true. But let me tell you something. We need to be excited about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. We need to be excited about the life of Christ. We need to be excited about this particular body, not looking at what we used to do or what we used to have here, but look at what God can use us to do here right now.
There's
Have a Bible class, you have 2 people there teach that class. We started a pre-teen class this morning. We had started out with 2, we ended up with 5. Carol had 1. I know what that is, Carol.
Amen.
But you know what? God's word does not return void. Now, if I be speaking to 1 or 100. So, I'm called, like God through Haggai, get over the disappointment, get over discouragement. Don't look at the past memories, good or bad. Look forward. Let me tell you something, you can't go back and regain what you had back then. But I'll tell you how Satan uses it. He can defeat you through discouragement and disappointment. And I think he uses that, after studying this, he uses that more than anything else. He can get us disappointed and discouraged if we quit what? Working. Now, I'm not talking about working actually, but I'm saying doing the things that God wants us to do. Doing the things that God wants us to do. And let me tell you something. You know how you know you're doing what God wants you to do? When Satan tries to creep in and get you disappointed and get you discouraged and get you to doubt what you do. And I know past few weeks, a couple of months, I've been feeling that way, off and on. And I know then that I'm here because this is what God wants. If you get down and disappointed and discouraged, you know that's Satan trying to tear you apart from God's focus. He has for your life and for the body of Christ. Now, several things to close with this verse. First thing you need to realize, you have to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. That will help be the shield against one thing, disappointment and discouragement. Number 2, you need to be active in the Bible. Find something to work at. Whatever it is, clean toilets, vacuum doing it because that's what God wants you to do. Teach. If you're there to be in exhorters or sit in the pew and exhort somebody up, that's what you're here to do. What you're not here to do is to look back. Look back. Look at your present circumstance. Because we're here to what? With God. That's how we're praying. Dear Father, I thank you for this time we spent in this worship. And I thank you for speaking through me. You know that 30 some odd years ago, you never